How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Caffeine podcast. I hope you're all doing well. I'm your host. My name's Connor Wells. I am a photographer, videographer, and podcast producer. And we talk about all those sorts of things each week. We're kicking off the year with a few solo episodes. Ben's going to be jumping in here and there. And obviously we're going to have some guest interviews as well, which is super exciting. But obviously last week's episode was about setting your 2024 goals. 2024, very, very exciting year. I feel like I say that in every sort of like New Year's episode. 2023, very exciting. 2022, very exciting. But no, I'm very excited for 2024. It's going to be a very, very exciting year. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the concept of knowing your worth and how to set your prices as a photographer or as a videographer and an editor as well. It kind of all falls under the same bracket. So I'm going to be breaking it down into 5 different segments about how you can, profitably set your prices. Make sure you're not, selling yourself short, undercutting other people. Let's get into it. So segment number 1 really is know your worth. So establish your value. How do you do that? So begin by evaluating your skills, your experience, and your unique style. So if you've been doing photography for 1 year, you're probably not going to be charging as much as somebody who's been doing it for 10 years. Same with videography and the same with editing. You need to figure out what sets you apart from your competition. Are you in an area where there is lots of people in that niche? If there's lots of wedding photographers, what's going to set you apart from all the other wedding photographers? Or if you shoot music videos, what's setting you apart from everybody else who shoots music videos? So really sort of make some notes, think about what sets you apart from everybody else. You need to understand your value. Understanding your value is key to determining your pricing structure. The second way to do that is research the market. Now, in my area where I live, there are loads of photographers, loads of videographers, and not actually that many freelance editors. Editors are actually very hard to come by. Most of us, we edit all our own projects, or just, send it to each other to edit. There's a few times where I've edited for somebody else, editing some footage from them when they've, overbooked themselves, and vice versa. I've occasionally sent off some projects of mine that I'd like to be edited so that I can focus on some client work, for example. That sort of goes back to 2024 and, having a good circle of creatives around you, because we're all in the same game. We're all here to help. But there's still competition in a way. It's got to be friendly competition. You don't want to be, bad-mouthing other photographers and videographers. No, fully against that. So research the market. Investigate the pricing models in your niche and geographical area. So if you're wanting to get into wedding photography or wedding videography, have a little look and see what other wedding photographers, other wedding videographers are charging in your area, and really evaluate where you sit within those prices. So if somebody is charging, let's say, £1,000 for a wedding highlight film, and they've been doing it for, 2 or 3 years, you're wanting to do it, you've only picked up a camera in the last sort of year or so, you're probably not going to be charging that much. And the same with if somebody's been doing it for 5 or 6 years or even more, they're probably going to be charging more than all of those. So researching the market and other people's pricing models, this will help you gauge the industry standard, and position yourself. So let's get into segment 2. There are many, many ways to price your services, and that is pricing models. So the two most popular ones are hourly rates versus packages. Now, we can chat about the pros and cons of each one. I'm not going to go too deep in that. That's probably like a separate video, separate podcast. So if you want to hear an episode about hourly rates versus packages, let me know in the comments below, either on Spotify or on YouTube. So, explore the pros and cons of hourly rates versus package pricing. Now, for me, I have a little bit of little bit of both. So I've got my hourly day rate of filming, for example, if it's an event. One word I love to use and what really gets clients' attention is my minimum level of engagement. So if I'm shooting an event, it could be 2 or 3 days, or a music video. My minimum level of engagement is blah blah blah. So that's the minimum amount that I'm going to take when it comes to accepting a project. It will go up if they want editing or travel costs and revisions and all those sorts of things. So consider factors when it comes to choosing hourly rate versus packages. You need to consider factors like the complexity of the project, the client expectations, and your own efficiency. So let's talk about those. So the complexity of the project. Let's say you're going to be doing a corporate job. Now, my experience with corporate job, a lot of people's experiences with corporate jobs is there is a lot of back and forth. You may be gotten in touch with by someone at the company, at the corporate job. They say, we want this video, we want it in this kind of format. Can you do it for us? Yes. You do the edit, you do the filming, you do the edit, and then they go, great, that looks brilliant. Let me send it off to the marketing team. There's always going to be a lot of back and forth. There's going to be loads of complex sort of things that need to be changed. So, for example, let's say a package, you do that as a package. If there's, say, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 rounds of revisions because the marketing team need to change this, they've spoken to this person, they need this cut, they need this added, it can get really complex, and those revisions may total a cost that's higher than the initial package that you have already charged. So for that, you may want to do like an hourly rate. So you say, my minimum level of engagement for filming is this. You charge X amount for editing, and then state that anything outside of, say, most typically for me, I do 2 rounds of revisions. So they get the first draft. If they're happy with that, bless, happy days. I'm not going to charge less because I charge on output. But let's say that they've got 2 rounds of revisions. They've used up 1. After that 1, I will let them know that you've used up 1 round of revisions. You've got 1 more left. Anything else outside of that is outside of the scope of work. That's where the hourly rate kind of model can come in really, really handy. Because if you've got a set package, let's say £1,000, and you typically give 2 rounds of revisions, and they're going, oh, we want this change, we want that change, and it adds up to 6 or 7 rounds of revisions, then you're going to be losing some income. Now, there's value-based pricing. Oh, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. So, client expectations. So, let's say you're doing a shoot, and the client really, really, really wants that video within the week, or they really want those photos the next day. Rush fees, I've spoken about it before. Rush fees are imperative with that. If you've just charged a standard package and that's it, then and they want that project done ASAP, you're gonna be selling yourself short. You're gonna be losing some money that you could be making. You're gonna be losing a little bit of bread. You could be getting that bread. So figure out the client's expectations. If they want a project really, really quickly, you've got to bump that to the top of your editing list, above all the other projects that you've shot before that, and you need to be compensated for that. Same with if they want multiple different versions of the video. Say they want one that's square, say they want a landscape version, one that's 9:16 portrait. It might be, they might think of it as, it's just a simple export, it's just simple cropping. It's not, you've got to reframe everything. You've got to go back into the editing, and you've got to charge for that. And then your own efficiency. If you are a quick editor, and you know that you are a very good quick editor, or an efficient at photographing, efficient at filming, then you can bump your prices up for that. People want a fast return when it comes to the product. You don't want to go into a shop, buy your shopping, and then them say, it should be ready in a couple of days, or it should be ready minimum 2 weeks. That's not going to impress the client. That's you. So if you can edit really, really quickly, then charge for that. Makes sense. So let's talk about the next one, value-based pricing. So align your prices with the value you provide to the clients. We sort of touched on that a little bit. Focus on the benefits that they will receive rather than just the time you spend on the project. So not just buy time, sell time, if you know what I mean. Segment 3, cost considerations. Now, it's always going to be tricky to keep this low, but us creatives, photographers, videographers, and editors, we typically have a lot of overhead. We have a lot of gear to buy, cameras, lenses, microphones, headphones. I'm not wearing any today because I've not got a guest with me, but all of those little things, lights, hard drives and storage, this is just 2. I've got so many of these over on my shelf, which is backups of all my sort of personal stuff, all of my old client work, just in case. These cost, and these are overheads. And that's just the physical stuff. Don't forget, stock footage, motion graphics, copyright-free music, loads like your Adobe suite, Photoshop, Lightroom, buying presets, buying license tracks. All of those things add up, whether you're paying for them monthly or whether you're paying them for the year. I advise paying them for the year because those sorts of services will often give you a discount, which is fab. You love to see it. You've got to figure out your own business expenses. So yeah, that includes equipment, software. We've not even touched on marketing. You've got to take time to market yourself. All of those things take time and often take money, especially if you're running adverts. And then as well, travel. You've got to figure out if with this project, are you going to be traveling for it? For me, I typically charge if the journey is there and back more than half an hour. So if it's more than half an hour there, if it's more than half an hour back, I'll be charging for travel, whether that's petrol or gas, wherever you're listening to this, or public transport, train kind of fare. Maybe I'll have to fly somewhere. You never know. All of those things need to be factored into your price. So ensure that your pricing covers these costs and leaves room for profit. Because if you're charging for your services and it's actually costing you more to do the service than you are by bringing in that money, then that's not working out. It's not going to be sustainable for the long run. For example, let's say you're charging £50 for a photo shoot. You're paying, let's say, £20 to WeTransfer, £10 a month for Adobe, £10, £5, whatever it is for Photoshop. Do you know what I mean? That's sort of starting to add up, and you're only really making, let's say, £20, £10. It's not profitable. So you need to factor in your expenses and make sure that you're charging more than those expenses. Not just to cover the expenses, but charging enough to actually make profit. Time investment as well. Don't forget to account for the time spent on post-production, client communication, and other non-shooting activities. So, post-production, it's usually the longest process. What is it that they say? If you spend an hour shooting, you're probably going to spend a couple of hours editing because, you've got to cull, you've got to edit, you've got to retouch, you've got to deliver and cull all the photos as well. I've done that in a completely wrong order, but you know what I mean? It's just coming to my brain. So all of those things take time. Client communications. For me, I love to jump on calls with a client, whether it's before the project, mid-project, and after project. It just really, really helps, get everybody on the same level, get everybody on the same page so that everybody's happy. It's difficult to get client revisions through email or through, some sort of software. I'd really like and prefer to hop on a call, like a Zoom call, share a screen, and go through usually it's going to be a video project. I don't really tend to ever hop on a call when it comes to a photo project. I think that's a little bit unnecessary, a little bit overkill, but for a video project, definitely. And that takes time. You've got to factor in the time spent on client communication, because that's time that you could be doing something else, marketing your business, making a passion project, editing some other work, or booking in another shoot. All of those things you need to be compensated for. And then other non-shooting activities. Time is money, and your pricing needs to reflect that. Let's move on to segment 4. Also, if you're enjoying the pod, please hit the subscribe button on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and also hit a review. That really, really helps as well. Let's talk segment 4, building client relationships. So we've just sort of touched on the client communication side of things, and that's very important. So building client relationships. So transparent communication. Clearly communicate your pricing structure to clients up front. So whenever I've got an inquiry, whenever I've hopped on a discovery call, I don't just want to go back and forth on DMs. I like to book in a discovery call and chat to the client, figure out who they are, what they're like, what they want to achieve with the project. And also, I want to figure out if I'm a good fit for them and if they're a good fit for me. If I feel that if they've come to me with a project and I feel this isn't really for me, for multiple reasons. Either it's not something that I specialize in, or it's just something that I feel like this is going to be a really, really long project. The money might be good, and I'm fortunate enough to be in a position to be able to pass up jobs or, refer them, take 10% referral fee, if you know what I mean, and pass it on. Because I'm a simple man, I want a simple life, and if I feel like this project's going to be a lot of admin for me, it's going to, take me a lot of time, take me away from other clients, then I'll pass it on to somebody else who may have a little bit more time than myself. How's it going, guys? I just want to jump in here real quick and say, if you're enjoying this episode of the podcast, it would mean the absolute world to me if you could hit the follow button or hit the subscribe button, and also leave a review and comments on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That would mean the world to me. It helps the podcast grow. It means we can get bigger guests and just absolutely crush the production value on these episodes. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of this episode. So, I like to hop on calls to figure that sort of stuff out. And when it comes to your pricing, tell the client up front. It doesn't have to be the exact quote. Give them a ballpark figure. If I get on a call and I'm like, hey, John, this sounds like a great project. I'm going to let you know my minimum level of engagement to take on this project for you is blah, blah, blah. Let's factor in some editing, and also you want to shoot at this location, so there may be a travel cost. Let them know that up front to avoid wasting their time and avoid wasting your time. Very, very key. You don't want to... I will send like a formal quote. That's imperative, particularly with corporate jobs. You've got to send a formal quote and make sure that they accept that. Get that in writing. If you've got a... customer, management system, CRM, see if you've got that in there to send quotes and to make sure that, there's an option for clients to accept. It's fab. I love it. I love when I send a quote and I get an email back from my CRM and it says, client has accepted your quote. Fantastic. You love to see it. So, communicate your pricing structure, whatever it may be, whether it's hourly or packages. So, clearly communicate that up front. Avoid surprises and build trust through transparency. And also, clients don't know everything. They may know everything about the video and what they want to achieve with the video, how they think it'll perform, but they don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So I'm talking about educating your clients. Help clients understand the value that they will receive by choosing your services. Like we started at the beginning, like we touched upon about the beginning. Communicate and set your pricing to a level that is going to set you apart from everybody else. I've got one of my clients. She's a brand strategist, and I love this quote. She says something like along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, but figure out what's going to make brands and your clients, your audience, sit up and pay attention. And I love that. And I film this client's videos all the time, and she starts all of her Instagram reels with sit up and pay attention. That's sort of her catchphrase, and it really, really resonates with whatever sector you're in, whether it's photography, videography, or editing. And yeah, you need to figure out what's going to set you apart from everybody else, and you need to communicate that to your client. They need to understand the value that they're receiving by choosing you, whether it's high quality video, whether it's captivating edits, fast turnaround, high quality images. You know what I mean? So share the expertise and dedication that, goes into creating stunning photographs, goes into creating visually compelling videos that creates an engaging edit. Communicate that with your client and let them know what they're paying for. If you just say, if you get off the phone or get off a discovery call with a client and you send them an email going, yeah, it's going to be this amount for a video, I'll be like, okay, but what am I paying for? Why is it going to be this amount? I want to know. Explain that to your client. Educate your client. And now, let's move on to the last segment. Segment 5, scaling your business. Now, reassess and adjust. We're in the new year now. For me, I raise my prices twice a year to keep up with inflation and the ever-scaling size of my business, whether it's taking on more work or wanting to work less. Scaling your business needs to be factored in, and the pricing needs to reflect that. So as your skills and reputation grow, periodically reassess your pricing, adjust your rates to reflect the increasing value in the market. So not only do you need to adjust your rates or adjust your packages to reflect the increasing value in the market, it also needs to reflect, the cost of living, whether it be inflation, subscription prices going up to, let's say you use Epidemic Sound. Shout out to Epidemic Sound. I use them for sound effects and copyright for your music. They've literally just this week increased their prices, their monthly fee. Fun times. You hate to see it, but it is what it is. The game is the game. So your pricing needs to reflect that. So every few months, every 6 months really, I will get in touch with my clients. I'll send out an email marketing campaign specifically to my clients who are on my CRM, and I'll let them know that I'm increasing my prices to, my business has grown since the last time we done a shoot, and also to keep up with inflation. Very, very key. If you're charging £50 3 years ago and inflation's gone up, or the market value's gone up, you're losing money. That's the be all and end all. You're losing money, and that sucks. Whereas everybody else may be upping their rates to £75, £85 for a shoot. They're making profit because they're keeping up and reassessing and adapting their prices. If you don't change your prices, your business ain't growing. So I'll get in touch with my clients and say, I've raised my rates. If that's a deal breaker for you, let me know and I can happily refer you to someone else. Sometimes I will get a little bit of pushback. Sometimes I'll say, oh, why has your price gone up? And I'll just, like it goes back to educating your clients, I'll let them know my business has grown since the last time we shot, and me raising my prices will allow me to dedicate and spend more time on your project. If, let's say, for example, if I raise my price by 50% and I lose half my clients, I'm still earning the same amount. Let that sink in. I'm still earning the same amount despite losing half my clients, which means I can use that time to reinvest in the business, market my business more. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Then the last bit is diversify your services. Consider offering additional services or packages to cater to different client needs. So let's say if you're just a photographer, why not dip your toes into video? Instagram Reels are very, very popular. Last year, when Instagram Reels, TikTok was sort of blowing up, it was probably a couple of years ago now. It's been going a few years. I sent out an email marketing campaign to my clients who regularly book shoots with me. These are clients that typically just book photos, and I say, photos just aren't enough anymore. So I'll offer a typical photo package, an hour shoot, maybe a little bit longer, and I'll factor in and I'll let them know that if you want more than photos, let's shoot a couple of Instagram Reels as well. And that got a really, really good response. And that's something that I never really typically offered to my photo clients, which is video. Now, I do video a lot. I'm doing it right now. Most of my work now these days is video. So if you're just a photographer, Factor in a little bit of video, learn it, even if it's just on your phone. My phone is here. Even if it's just on your phone, dip your toes into it. If you're a videographer, I'd probably say it's easier to move over to photography. Controversial take, but if you're a videographer, try and dip your toes in photography. Offer those services. If you're an editor, always expand your editing skills. Learn new trends. Learn new techniques. This can open up new revenue streams for your business. And that is all I have to say. So, charging for your services is not just about setting a number. Remember that. It's about recognizing and communicating the value that you bring to your clients. Value to your clients is imperative. It is the key thing. If you don't bring value to your clients and help them and educate them on that value that you're bringing to them, you're not going to get repeat bookings. And we're going to touch on repeat bookings in a further episode about how to get retainer clients. But by understanding your worth, implementing smart pricing models, and building strong client relationships, you'll not only charge effectively, but also set the stage for sustainable growth for your business. I hope this episode helped you if you've been stuck and been trying to figure out your pricing model, or if you've been stuck on pricing, not sure what you should be doing with your business, how to scale it. I hope this has helped you. If it has, it'll mean the world to me if you dropped a like on the YouTube video, if you left a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and hit follow as well. That would be really, really helpful. So, until next week, thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of the week. Peace.